Friends, today is Sunday, the 6th of September, and it's the 23rd Sunday at Ordinary Time, and it's also the Labor Day weekend, and we come together. It's actually Saturday evening. I'm going to record this a little early, and we have a wonderful gospel this evening that I would call very practical, a very practical gospel. It's a gospel that deals with conflicts. What do we do when conflicts arise? And in general, whether that's family or community or whatever, but in the context of this reading, the 18th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel is basically talking about conflicts among the disciples, among believers, conflicts among believers. What do we do? How do we handle that? So let's take a look and see what Jesus recommends. He gives us a three-step process to bring us to reconciliation. And all of us know life in community, even the community of the church, is a challenge. Life in community is a challenge. We are human, we're fickle, we're very sensitive, overly sensitive usually, and we're sinful. And so our relationships sometimes break down and need to be fixed. And why? Why do we fix them? Because that's what we're called to as disciples. Love one another as I have loved you. And so I want you to imagine a brother or a sister who has offended you, who has sinned against you. What do you do? Well, I hate to say it, but most commonly, we probably tell everyone in the community about it, except the person who offended us. We tell everybody. We're on that phone immediately. We're texting. We're telling, do you know what so-and-so did to me? And we want that response. Oh, you're kidding. I can't believe it. Oh, that's terrible. Somehow building up our own ego. But unfortunately, we make matters worse. It doesn't bring that offender to peace or reconciliation. So what does Jesus say? What does Jesus tell us to do? And this is step one. He says very simply, and not surprisingly, go directly to the person who offended you or hurt you. Do not go to others. Go directly to the person who hurt you. Tell that person your complaint just between the two of you. Just between the two of you. Limit the damage. Limit the damage. And we call this individual fraternal correction. Individual fraternal correction between two people. And one of the reasons that we don't do this, that we avoid individual fraternal correction, is that oftentimes it doesn't work. The other person will be offended and hurt. How could you say that to me? Of course I wouldn't want to offend you or hurt you. In other words, they deny. Denial is very strong. It's a very strong mechanism in all of us. We deny. Oh, I never did anything like that at all. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Now, the gospel today almost kind of presumes that reaction, because it gives us a step two. If the person who offended you does not listen, then it says to take one or two others along with you, not to gang up, but to be an objective voice, because sometimes we make a mistake. We think somebody has hurt or offended us, but in fact, they are not the problem. We might be the problem. And so you ask somebody whom you respect, am I seeing this correctly or not? And if they say, yes, you are seeing it correctly, then we use that second step to take those couple of people to that person and ask for some kind of recognition of the fault, of the offense, of the sin, and bring about that reconciliation. But we can be stubborn. Our pride can get in the place, and it can all of a sudden our pride, which is there, can usually arise. And, of course, then nothing is helped. And the offense continues. And so Jesus suggests a step 3. Step 3. Take your complaint to the church. Take your complaint to the church. What does that mean? When we hear the word church, of course, we always think of a church building, but we're not speaking of a church building here. We're speaking of the assembly of people, the ecclesia, the assembly of the disciples. But it doesn't mean you go up to the pulpit and you point out, that person right there, that person hurt me and offended me. We need to do something. We, the assembly, need to do something. No, we don't do that. There are some groups and denominations that do, but we don't do that. When it says the church, we mean church authoritative leadership. Take it to the leadership, those with authority, those who have the power to bind and loose. Take it to the church and let them make some decision on this. And sometimes that happens to me. Somebody will bring an issue to me between two people, or maybe a husband-wife situation. I rarely engage myself in that to get caught in between two people, because it's never black and white. There's always a lot of gray. And one party will accuse you of favoritism. You always preferred so-and-so to me, and I don't get into it. I encourage them, but in any case, recognizing that sometimes even that third step won't work, Jesus gives kind of a fourth. If it still doesn't work, he says, treat him as you would a Gentile or a tax collector. In other words, they are to be expelled from the community. A very harsh, difficult kind of penalty, expelled. The word that we use as Catholics is excommunication. You're cut off. You cannot receive the sacraments. You cannot function as you normally do as a Catholic. You're cut off. Excommunication. Those who were tax collectors, those who were Gentiles, could not worship in the temple, and that's where this comes from. Then expel them. They need to be expelled. Open the doors, throw them out. Still seems a little harsh, doesn't it? But there's kind of good news and bad news in this. And the bad news is you get expelled. You're cut off from the community. But the good news is, think, how did Jesus treat Gentiles? How did Jesus treat tax collectors? He sat down to eat meals with tax collectors. He treated them with respect and dignity and love in order to draw them in, to draw them to conversion. And you know, when all is said and done, maybe that's the best solution of all. Penalties oftentimes don't bring about a change or a conversion. But love, respect, dignity, give that a try and see what happens. For peace, for reconciliation, for the common good of the church. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow, which is Labor Day.